Well, I fixed it. It was just a couple oxidized pins and connectors on the SAM unit, so she's back in action. It's kind of a funny hiccup, but she lives. No codes, no errors, no issues, just good old German AMG stuff going on here. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Novichenko Whips YouTube channel. Today is a exciting-ish day. We are gonna try to slap a new tune on the E55 AMG with the Mercedes Chop Shop guys over on Instagram. I'm really excited. So we're gonna use the Galletto software and the Galletto OBD2 cable dongle to do the tuning and see what we can do to fix and resolve the slight, running rich issue on this car. Something that I discovered, and I didn't look at this more closely before, but I zoomed in and I looked really closely at the injectors on this car, and they are off of the serial number, a 630cc injector. So I know that's definitely an upgrade on the E55. I forgive me, it's either 450 and then people upgrade to 550s on these. And I think like the 630s came on Daimler, Chrysler, SRTs and other engines of this era when Mercedes had this partnership with Chrysler. Daimler is Mercedes owner or parent company. So anyway, we have gotten a canned tune for the 630cc injectors, the 76 mil clutched pulley. I'm really looking forward to actually putting the filters in the boxes and plumbing up the whole intake and having the car not instantly throw me an ESP malfunction. Because even with the full open throttle body, as you've heard in these cool videos where it screams and whines, it's a fully open throttle body. As soon as you throw any kind of intake on there or cone filter, or even plumb up these boxes with no filter in there, it's a lot more quick to throw me the ESP code. And then I see the long-term fuel trims are always like a really high negative number. With the open throttle body, it's like negative 15%. When you throw these on, it's like negative 25. So very easily that someone threw these injectors on here and never tuned it, sadly. Although running a little rich is safer than running lean. So what I'm gonna do is plumb up the intake, and then we're going to jump on the Windows laptop and figure out how to install the Galletto software. And I'll just walk through the process with you. Hopefully this is useful information for those looking to tune your M113K engine. Hang tight. Brand spanking new. I know they sell performance filters, but these were the ones I bought when I was still experimenting with trying to get this car to run right. So no biggie. We'll see how it runs with these paper style filters, and then maybe we'll go performance intake in the future. It's a nice tight fit. You can see the edge of the filter there. I know people install spacers on here. To be honest, for like an inch spacer and the amount that they charge for one of those, it's kind of too much. I think it's like a couple $100 at least just for a little spacer the companies sell. I think you can probably do better with like a cool high flowing 3+ inch aftermarket tubing. I know a lot of people like the OEM look. I'd say I like it too. It's nice to have the OEM Plus look. But some people, right, once you're going big power and you've modified a lot of stuff already, they don't mind the extra changes, and it probably flows better than stock, most definitely. Stay. So, as you can see, we are going to position I like to kind of put this onto there. Now that I've had it on and off a few times, it's kind of molded to it, so it's not as hard to position this little accordion piece. It used to be a bit more difficult when I first plumbed it up, but we should be in a much better place now. Now just install the front portion. And there we are. I'll be, clamping that up once I finish the other side. From my end, the biggest concern is this bend right here because of how big the throttle body is, and there's a spacer, it levels it up. Yes, this is a big T. There's kind of this bend. One trick is I keep that little tab outside of this so it angles this whole box out slightly. You could even probably undo that and just angle the whole box out a little bit just to give it a more straight flow, because when you compress it, it just becomes like a very jaggedy S that can affect airflow in a big way. Yep.
Fit it back nicely. I'm so excited for this car to run with no hiccups, tune-wise. Which would be, a lot more pleasant to live with. You do learn to live around any kind of car's, let's say, issues or gimmicks. What you do, right, you pull the manual transmission off of one of those Chrysler Crossfires.
First and foremost, public service announcement. If you're ever flashing or doing ECU work on your car that will require you to be in the accessory or power-up mode without the engine running, you need a charger on your battery, because your battery could die, and that would be really bad if you were mid-right to your ECU. A read is not as bad, but yeah, mid-right, if you cut power, you could lose access to your ECU. So I've got about 10 amps, normal charging going there. So here's the, as we call it, the 1260 serial MSS Galletto, I think it's called, or Galletto, I'm not sure. But here's the software. The tuner sent me the software. It looks pretty, old school, lightweight. But most importantly, right, they should be providing you instructions and providing you the .bin map file to flash to your car. My car's an AMG, so I've selected AMG from the driver, or for the driver. I don't see the W211 listed here for E-Class. The only thing that comes close, at least for me, is like this W10 5-liter E-Class. What I'm gonna do first is try to read my ECU. So to do that, you need one of these 1260 Galletto compatible OBD2 cables. I'll put a link in the description at where I got this. I think it was eBay. It wasn't too bad. I think it was like 20 bucks, but I believe the tuner indicated that this is the one I need. Let's plug this into the OBD2 port. I'll plug it into the laptop. We will put the ignition in the second position without starting the car, and we'll try to read my ECU and see if that's a success. Okay, so the car key is in the second position. Car is not on. Let's see if we can read our ECU data. Start data reading, opening the port, impossible. Nothing is impossible. Let's see, we're gonna save our data. Actually, let me try to get the ECU data one more time. Opening port, impossible. Let's see what we can do. We'll just save this as 2006 E55 AMG. I don't know, it's not stock, but let's say 2025 tune. I know it's not the best name. I'll name it 2024. Put it in my documents. Okay. Opening port is impossible. Let me see if I need to like plug in this OBD2 on a different port. I'm just trying to get it to recognize the car. Oh, okay. Look at this. So I changed the USB port and it seems to have read accurately. Now that we've done that, let's try to read my ECU, right? Where's that file I just created? 2006. There's got to be a 2006 in here somewhere. I have a lot of Subaru tunes, as you can see. Okay, you know what we're gonna do? I'm gonna save it in my Mercedes tuning folder. AMG 2024 tune. And save. Attention, before reading, remove feeding. Put to mass with the picture in folder document, just JPEG, and remove mask giving feeding end to continuous. See the PDF file in the folder document. I have no idea what that says, but let's cancel this. It's kind of a scary message. I'll ask the tuner what this means. Well, whatever, let's go for it. I'll be your guinea pig. Boot mode inactive. I'm sure the car, if you're gonna read the ECU, your car needs to get into some specific boot mode or something. So that makes sense. Okay, I'll catch you guys after I reach out to the tuner. I would love to keep my current tune on file somewhere, just in case. And also, I'll just double check on the way to write the new one, just to make sure we're safe. Again, I wanted to stress the fact and show how much more rich my car runs on the current tune. I use this OBD Link MX Plus. I bought it on Amazon. I thought I wouldn't really find use for it, but it's pretty useful, and I'll show you how it works. So you plug it into the OBD2 port, put the car in the second position, go to your Bluetooth, and here's the OBD Link. It's going to connect. It's connected. Go to the OBD Link app, hit the connect button. It's fairly quick in the way it works. And I've set up some monitors for long-term and short-term fuel trims in this dashboard. So here's some useful info. Throttle opening position, air intake temp, ignition timing on the first cylinder, RPMs, coolant temp, and boost. And then this is short-term, long-term, and then O2 sensor. So let's start the car. Of course, the car starts really rich. I think when the car runs at, like, let's say optimal 14.7 or lambda, these should be at around 0.7 for that stuff. And then of course, in a minute here, once the car warms up, you're gonna see these fuel trims start to really go down in the negative, which means cutting fuel. The car is gonna need to start cutting fuel to make sure that she runs better. So yeah, running at a 1.0 is very rich. Running at a low number means more lean. It's taking its sweet time to get out of the warm-up mode. The app is kind of laggy, but it refreshes, I guess, fast enough to get the data you want and the data you need. The car is like super cold. That's probably also why we just did a full-blown cold start. So yeah, this is extremely rich. This is probably like 10 or 12 AFR, if I'm guessing that correctly. So you can see the instant fuel trims start to pull back right away. Over time, the long-term fuel trims will learn the same. So yeah, these injectors are definitely too big for this tune. I'll catch you in a minute once it corrects itself. And I think this is what's been causing me to jump into this limp mode, because it just corrects as much as it can, and then it just gives up after some counter is hit in the ECU, and it just pops you out into a limp mode saying, yo, something's up with your fueling. So with this new tune for the exact 630cc injectors, we should see 0 long-term fuel trim all the time. Whereas when I drive around long enough, these are at like negative 15% as well, for this to show correctly. Like for example, if I shut off the car, it hasn't had much time to do any learning, but let's see if anything changes, because you have to do a bit of driving for those numbers to change. Yeah, she's definitely rich. I can like smell it in here. The learning does take some time, and I can feel the engine running slightly rough because of probably the rich mixture. Rich mixture is probably going to foul your O2 sensors over time as well, so they need heat and the correct mixture to run better. But here's proof enough. The instant is negative 14, and it's still very rich on the voltages for the O2 sensors. I wish they had a way to calculate AFRs in here. I still need to poke around and see if that's available, because I'm more used to 14.7 AFR. But yeah, look at that. There we go. Yeah, it's cutting back 25%. So I presume the tune on this car is either for the stock injectors or like slightly upgraded to maybe the 550s, but definitely not the 630s. So once we flash, we should see these numbers at 0, and the car should be way more happy. Okay, we're back. Let's just go ahead and try and flash this thing. The tuner told me it's not easy to read your ECU unless you have the ECU disconnected from the car and sent in to the tuner. I guess they have to put it like on their bench. So that's okay. So here's the tune that I have. Pretty much 630cc, 76 millimeter. We've loaded the tune after opening the file, and then I think we hit the download file and see what happens. Writing initialized. Again, my charger is attached to the car, so I'm charging the car at 10 amps. My laptop is pretty nicely charged. I can hear my fan has turned on full speed, but I'm used to that. That happens with the Subarus as well when you flash it. And then of course, you'll probably see all your lights on the dash. I'll catch you guys when this thing is closer to 100%. We're just gonna wait it out here for a few minutes. All right, we're coming up on what looks like 4 or 5 minutes here. So not extremely long on the write process, but definitely probably enough juice to kill a bad battery. What does this say? Spegnere liquordo per 10 secondi. I'm gonna translate this real quick, but I think it means to turn off the ignition. Let me check that out. All right, while we're letting her warm up, so far no hiccups. I see the trims are around like -1, which is very, very adequate. I'm gonna check the oil level while the car is running. Oil level's good. We're at here, and the low mark is over here. Put our cap. You gotta put your cap back because that's a vacuum leak if you leave it open. So far, so good. Let's just, it used to jump in its limp mode if you let it idle long enough, even in warm up. It took like 3 to 5 minutes of just standing there and it would jump into its high idle unless you idled a little bit and then went and drove and, you know, gave various throttle inputs. This is pretty good because we have the whole intake plumbed up. I have the filters in there and the trims are very minimal in their adjustment. So we'll get more video of us driving and see what it looks like there as well. No codes, of course. Everything looks fine. She's warming up. The exhaust smells more like a catless car now instead of just a pig rich type smell. So I'll give you more feedback here in a bit. We've just flashed a second revision from the tuner. I felt like the car was running a little bit lean on the initial tune. So let's see. Cold start on the first revision. The OBD2 data is a little bit laggy, but still I want to see the info flow through correctly, right? Come on, what are you going to tell us? The idle is back to normal. I was experiencing some very high idle previously. It wasn't the greatest, so trying to see. Okay, now we're running a little rich with the 0.96 volts, but it should kick into closed loop after this initial warm up here, and we'll see what that's all about. Oil is quite cold, of course. Cold start, 5 degrees Celsius. Come on, what are you going to show us? I'll catch you guys when it actually jumps out of the warm-up loop. I think we fixed it. Let's get a little clean in while it's sunny weather outside. She looks pretty good when she's all cleaned up and the black paint. But you can definitely see all the dirt when she's dirty. Gonna foam it up, let it stand, and then probably use a mitt this time because this paint, you still see everything even if you just pressure wash the soap off. I'm not having a good day. So I drove back home after driving around a lot celebrating, and I'm like, yo, I can wash my car real quick, which you probably saw me doing a few minutes of. And I'm like, oh, I'm gonna let the car, you know, air dry a little bit, go get a snack. I'm sitting in the house and I start hearing bzzz. I'm like, what is that? I thought it was my pressure washer. So I come out and this thing is fully out washing the headlights. The car is completely off. And I'm like, the washers have never worked on this car. Anytime I've tried to wash or use the washers, just the wipers come on and then you'd never get any water anywhere. And I'm like, that's weird. So I started up. I'm like, you know, maybe something's wrong. So I started up, starts up fine. And I'm like, whatever, shut it off. I'm like, it should not do that anymore, hopefully. Go back in the house. My wife comes in, why is your car making that sound? I'm like, piece of garbage. So I come out, it's doing that bzzz thing again. So I'm like, I'm just gonna pull the battery, you know, for a reset. Put the battery back in. After a few minutes, it starts zooning again, and now the car won't start. The car does not want to start. I am done, quote unquote, with stuff like this. I don't know if it's just a Mercedes thing in me. I've had so many BMWs and I've never had such issues in a single BMW. Albeit I've had my other share of issues, like whatever, wastegate rattle, but electrical wise, Mercedes. I had a G-Class years ago. I loved it. I loved the car. The electrical issues were a pain. One of our seat adjusters broke, and it would drain the whole battery overnight, and your car wouldn't start. And I like changed the battery, and then finally I started scanning the car, and it said, passenger front side seat adjustment module. I'm like, what in the world? So I just bought one of those on eBay, replaced it. The car stopped acting up. I'm like, what is up with these Mercedes German cars? And any kind of module going out, and you're stranded. Could be like your butt warmer module and your car explodes. Seriously, I'm sure the newer Benzes are no better. I would probably think they're worse with electronics. There's more of them. And I know with all the cost cutting that they do these days, it's probably not better quality. Please pray for me. I need to fix this car now. And my least favorite thing is electrical issues. So we're going to pull out this front SAM in that corner of the fuse box. I mean, maybe a couple drops of water got on it through here. Although I have a cover that's all over that, but you never know. I've washed the car several times before. This is not my first time washing this car. It's a wonder machine. I'm pretty mad. Doesn't this look exciting? So to the best of my knowledge, that's the ECU. This should be, I think, a controller. Most likely the SAM unit. I'll look it up later. But honestly, all the pins look fine. There's a little bit of this, whatever, greenish oxidation on there. Also on the ECU, on only this plug, I see some of that funky oxidation. Everything else is fine, so I'm going to clean all that out. Let's check the connectors. Oh, yeah, delicious. Now that is going to need a clean. And that would make sense. And then, yeah, that one's got a bit of that. That's no fun. And then everything else on the ECU side looked good, except for that one plug right here. So I'm going to clean all this out. Fun times. AMG ownership. Happy to report all it took was some good old rubbing alcohol and Q-tips to run over all the connectors, all the pins, and I put it back together and the car started right up. It's electronics. So I guess if you're buying an old Mercedes, beware. I did spray a little bit of this mass airflow cleaner. I didn't want to use a lot of it. That's why I switched to rubbing alcohol. They sell a electronics controller, electronics wires and connectors cleaner. That stuff is way better and less harmful, less, corrosive or degradable. But yeah, put everything back together. I fired it up for a couple minutes. The water pump or whatever, the squirt stopped. I'm probably going to look and buy a proper fuse box cover. I'm sure there's supposed to be one here, and whoever owned this car before me got rid of it. Or I'm just gonna see what plastics I have, so what covers, and I'm gonna cover this up. And then on top of that, I'm gonna add, this cover, because apparently this is not enough, fluid or condensation and stuff was getting in there, which is not good. Fixed again. I think it's time to sell this car to the next person that's going to enjoy a Project AMG. Let's see if I will be surprised if now finally the window washers work. That'll be somewhat of a good outcome out of all of this. Oh, it's been a day. Let's see, window washer. Nope. Let's see. It still doesn't work. Whatever. She does look pretty nice, even with a quick wash. Car is still for sale. It's a beast, but it's a project. Someone will buy it. There's things about it that I love, and things about it that are... Well, I fixed it. It was just a couple oxidized pins and connectors on the SAM unit, so she's back in action. It's kind of a funny hiccup, but she lives. No codes, no errors, no issues, just good old German AMG stuff going on here.